thanks very much for coming along and actually giving me the opportunity to talk about stuff. And how I thought I'd run things today is I've noticed a few people have got guitars, which is really good. Others haven't. That's absolutely fine. I kind of want to drive it a little bit by you guys as well. I'll just have a tendency to ramble on about stuff. But if you do have questions, or if there's anything in specifically that you'd like me to cover in terms of like kind of blues history or just my own history, I've had, as you probably know, I've had like a long history of collaboration with tradition-bearing artists from the US. So there's kind of stories in that as well. But I also want to play some stuff as well. So look, I might just play a couple of things, and I'll probably talk for a while, go through some stuff. We will take a break at one point, and then hopefully I'll get to actually sort of demonstrating stuff if people have guitars. Hope that's okay. Feel free to yell out. Is there anything that you would like me to talk about today? Tunings. Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. Tunings.
I was just really keen on how you worked with Jim Conway on the acoustic blues stuff.
Okay, go. Yeah, that's right. You've sent me the message on that. That's a really good question, and that's a really good. I'll get into that soon up, I think.
Phrasing and timing.
With slide, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's excellent. Actually, they're really thoughtful questions. So, if it's okay, I'm just going to kick off with something. Hopefully I'm not. Oh, that's a good start. I'm muted. Okay, I'll unmute. I'm still kind of working up a sound here. This is kind of my acoustic rig, by the way. I tend to mainly play electric guitar, but I've got a love of both, and so when I play acoustic, I want to get the sound of the for the guitar nerds. I'm using like amplified magnetic pickups and stuff like that, like an electric guitar. I like that whole thing, but I also want to get some of the sound of the acoustic in there. So I have a few ways of doing that. You can have a mic on stage, of course, but that creates a whole other area of issues. From venue to venue, and if you're with a band and all that sort of stuff. So what I've got going on here is I've got a couple of options, and this is all in discussion with my good buddy Jeff Lang, who's doing the same thing. He kind of put me onto this idea of I've got microphones inside. I'm actually not using that at the moment, but I've got a contact pickup on the back of the biscuit bridge here. And for those who are interested, I can tell you more about that. But basically, I'm blending the two. So that's the more acoustic sound, and then in comes my more amplified sound. And I kind of love both of them, but it's just nice to have a blend of the two. And how I got onto that, I thought I was going to play a song, but I got talking. How I got onto that was I went through this whole thing, and this kind of leads to the question on the Jim Conway era, like when I first started out with Backsliders. The idea was to be an acoustic blues band that could, at the time when we started that, or when I started it actually in 1986, there wasn't really anybody kind of doing that thing in Australia at the time. There had been previously, but just at that particular time there wasn't. And I'd spent most of 86 in America traveling and meeting people who ended up being a really crucial part in my whole career as a musician. And I ended up working with lots of people from that time. But anyway, I came back and we went through this whole thing of being an acoustic band, which I loved that period. It was really, really great fun. But back in the 70s, I saw John Martin in Australia, the great English folk guy. Yeah, and I love his stuff. And I saw him in Australia, and what he was doing I thought was very revolutionary, and he was doing exactly this. He had an acoustic guitar, he had a magnetic pickup on it, and he had a contact pickup on it. And at one moment, he sounded like this beautiful Celtic English sounding, this is one person on stage. And then the next minute he sounded like Jimi Hendrix, all in the one thing. And it was like, wow, that's incredible. And then I started thinking about that, and then thinking about Lightning Hopkins, as well, and Mississippi Fred McDowell, associated with being acoustic artists, but actually they got pickups on, and Fred mainly played electric on most of his recordings and live stuff for the convenience of it. But so anyway, I'll stop talking and do one. This is a really Robert Johnson's a fantastic, I hate to say starting point because it's a finishing point as well, but because he was such he sort of collected the music of the era of the blues people around him and seemed to be able to meld it into something probably slightly more digestible at the time for people, even though for some people now it still sounds kind of old world sort of thing. But he sort of put together Son House, Charlie Patton, and in particular Tommy McLennan, who doesn't get mentioned so much, but a lot of his stuff you can hear from earlier recordings of Tommy McLennan. Anyway, the beauty of his stuff is his slide work is meticulously beautiful, and but also the question about the rhythm on the slide. He moved the rhythm, and that's a really common thing in that style. Anyway, I'm going to play one. I went to the crossroads, fell down on my knee. I went to the crossroads, fell down on my knee. I asked the Lord above, have mercy. Yeah, save me if you please. Yeah, stand at the cross. I tried to flag a ride. Yeah, I went to the crossroad. Yeah, I tried to flag a ride. Yeah, nobody seemed to know me. Everybody seemed to pass me on by. Yeah, you can run, you can run. Tell my friend Willie Brown. Yeah, you can run, you can run. Tell my friend Willie Brown. Standing at the crossroad, baby. Yeah, I believe I'm singing down. Thank you. So that's probably another one, the Crossroad Blues, and the way that Robert seems to approach that song is, and I think he kind of gets this from Charlie Patton and Son House, is that for a start, it kind of sounds like a 12-bar blues because it's got the 1 chord, it's got the 5 chord, there's a 4 chord. It occasionally goes to the 5. I don't think I did at that point, which would make up the 12-bar blues theme. But it completely falls out of that pattern. And one of the reasons for that, and one of the reasons why I love the earlier blues forms, is because of that fact that it's not restricted to the 12 bars. And so when you listen to the music of like Fred McDowell in particular, it's very rarely ever doing a 12-bar blues as you would think about it. One of the reasons is because it was not until, people on pianos were doing 12-bar blues kind of a lot earlier, but this kind of guitar-based, quarterphone-based music, essentially, which is including any instrument that's got strings on it like this, a quarterphone. What basically happens is that the people were playing just for parties and Duke Johnson, that sort of stuff, and generally solo. So it wasn't more about thinking about where the changes should be. It was more about somebody's dancing, I want to keep them going, or and you probably could. I don't know if you're listening, but I was slowing it and speeding it at times, and that's a conscious thing to do. You just get into the zone of it. Don't try and keep it all going like that, unless you want to do that, unless for some reason or other people are dancing on that beat. But you don't have to stay in time like that. You can move it around, and that's what is really common in the early forms. So when Robert, in doing that sort of thing, he's moving the time. As well as that, and I'm taking the same approach, is that if an artist like Sunhouse or Charlie Patton, if they record the same song 5 minutes later, it's going to be very different, because it's more about getting into the moment of the song that you're playing, rather than, I mean, I have to know what the structure of the song is, of course, but I have to be aware of that. But getting more into the vibe of it, and what that means then is I'll change the chords when I want to, you know. So sometimes in between motifs, so like I went to the crossroads, I tried to flag it right. Now I can take as long as I want here. And I'll come back when I want, instead of counting the time. Basically, I'm just coming back in. So these little kind of in-between leaks, some of them I'm just making up on the spot, you know, but they're not there every time, and they're going to vary from song to song. So I'm going to jump straight into the question that, I'm sorry, what's your name again? Yeah, Mal. She's Mal. I know you messaged me about this. So Mal asked me about working in guitar duos in particular, acoustic guitar and harmonica duo, and the relationships and what to think about. Well, yeah, I can go on quite a lot about that. But the thing for me is, if you listen to, again, it's all driven by people playing at parties. You know, I travel a lot to America, and it still happens, house parties. The people are just they're playing for an audience. They want people to have fun and get into it. So that's what they're thinking about. Thinking about the song, of course, but it's more about entertaining. So if you listen back to some of the great harmonica guitar duos, such as Sonny, Terry, Brown and McGee come straight to mind. Also Bud Spires and Jack Owens from Bentonia, Mississippi, another great duo. And possibly my favourite of all the duos is Fred McDowell and Johnny Woods, and so Fred's mainly playing slide guitar. So with all of those duos, the way to think about the way that the two artists are operating is, it's a great example of how, and I was talking about this on your program, Fran, is that one-on-one, two people together shouldn't make two, it should make three or more. That's what you want. So you have the opportunity to do that I know you've got, you're restricted in that all you've got is a guitar and a voice and a harmonica. So you're restricted in the instrumentation, but that doesn't mean you're restricted. So you have to work within that. And the way to do it is to not think of yourself as one accompanying the other in that classic format of, so I'll do the rhythm and you do a lead, and then we'll swap over and you do the rhythm and I'll do the lead. Okay, for me, that's not the way to think about it. And if you listen to Sonny, Terry, Brown and McGee, Bud Spires, Jack Owens, Fred McDowell, Johnny Woods, it's the opposite of that. They're weaving with each other. And the concept of the harmonica player getting in the way of the vocals, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about that. And if you, again, listen to Sonny, Terry, Brown and McGee, Sonny's playing all over Brownie's vocals. You know, he's not waiting for Brownie to sing and dropping in and out, which is classic Chicago-style blues, the harp pulls out when the vocal's coming in, that sort of thing. Don't need to do that, because it's two voices. It's not one voice. Because a harmonica is microtonal, and it's making the place of a voice or a trumpet or a harmonica, basically. So the idea is to kind of weave. So the harmonica can do the rhythmic stuff, as well as sort of weaving in between the guitar lines. Fred McDowell and Johnny Woods is a great example of that, because Fred's playing slide guitar. I think almost always with Johnny. I can't think of anything where he wasn't playing slide. So they've got three voices going. They've got Fred's voice, they've got Fred's vocal, his slide, and you've got Johnny's harmonica, which is vocal. And so the thing that they do when you've got a slide guitar and a harmonica, and Jim Conway and I used to do this a lot, is that we got it from Fred and Johnny, is that one of us would try and copy the other person's lines. So if we're doing, like, for example, the harmonica would be doing the same thing. You've got to move. So they're following each other. But the trick to it is listen to Fred and Johnny, because they're not right on all the time. Like the notes are, but you want to put a bit of feel in it. So I might be sliding up to the last one. So, Jim may not be sliding up to the last one, but that's okay. That's the idea. It creates like a slight discordance, on some of the notes, but they're the same notes, but kind of moving in and out. So there's a beauty in that, I think. There's a grit in that, which is what I think you need to aim to be doing. We used to, with Jim, going back to working with Jim Conway, the great harmonica player, there was a lot of, we being, in the early years, it was me and Peter Burgess, and in following that, it was me and Rob Hurst. We used to have to spend a lot of time with Jim. I mean this in the nicest possible way, is that Jim's default was often the song doesn't need a harmonica at all. And then we go, no, actually it'd be great. And we kind of work him into, we'd lead him into, but you just knew that once he got in there, he'd run with it, and that's what happened. And I really think he did his best work with us.
With that dynamic duo, though, a lot of the stuff, because I love that stuff, is I noticed Jim was sort of maybe just holding back a bit on volume, so that when you're talking about, the harp following the slide, Jim would always be a bit softer.
Yeah.
So there'd always be a sort of a predominant slide, which is the beauty of the dynamic.
That's true, actually, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't mention that the dynamic is critical in that you're kind of moving in and out with the dynamic. Sorry, just a quick. Yeah, with the weaving concept of the instrumentation, I had the great opportunity to play with Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi last year. I've actually played with them before, because I know Derek. I've known him for quite a number of years, since 2008, and I played with him in Adelaide there. But anyway, we are very different players, but we're similar players. The point I'm making here is about sort of weaving your notes. But I've actually openly talked to Derek about this, is that, before going on, I mean, I've only played with him twice, but I usually say, by the way, just a reminder, I'm going to weave in and out. Is that cool with you? And you go, yeah, it's cool, that's great. Because he does the same sort of thing. He works on that same approach that it's not solo, take a break, somebody else does a solo. It is at times, it's like that, but other times, and so there's some clips of me and with Derek, and we do that. We weave in and out, and where the idea is to try and create another level, so it's not just somebody soloing. There was another question on, the question down the back was about something about the slide notes. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
That phrasing.
Oh, the phrasing. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So one thing to think about with slide guitar, I'll just do a bit of a background on it, is that who plays slide guitar here? There's a few players, okay, all right, great. Yep. Okay, so, I mean, you probably already noticed, but you've got this fret, that's your fret on the finger here. You're basically playing fretless. And so I always sort of point out, so what's the point of that? Why are we gravitating towards, instead of going we're doing the slides. Why are we gravitating towards that? Because it's vocal and because it's emotive, and it's just something that humans have done going back thousands of years. So I've researched this stuff as well, and so if you go back to 2,000-year-old Chinese Kuchin music, it's the same deal. And you listen to some of that. Obviously, there's no recordings from them, but some of the songs are still around. Listen to some of that, you go, I can hear Blind Willie Johnson in that, the great 1920s slide guitar player. Because, and so why is that? How would 2,000 years ago, there's actually no connection. It's just purely human, that's all. So humans like to make vocal sounds because they're very emotive. And so that's what you're doing. So you got a voice on your finger here. And so the phrasing of that, I'm very conscious of the whole thing with the slide is that I'm waving it around here randomly, but you want to have as much control over this as you can possibly have for the nuances for the phrasing. Now, if you have a look at artists, say, let's take Hound Dog Taylor, great Mississippi guy, but ended up in Chicago, fabulous slide player. I use the word simple, but I don't mean it like that. He didn't play a lot of notes, a fantastic tone, great. If you watch him play, it's usually very open. There's no damping as such. So I'm doing what's called damping. So my fingers are behind the slide at times, so that I can play. The fingers are touching the strings behind, and also the palm of my hand hits here, so I can control the sound if I want to. I can bring it in and make it dynamic, so I can play really delicately, or I can get all the overtones, all the nuance, all the extraneous noise that I want in there. Maybe that's not something you think about, but it is something to think about, because those noises are really important in the whole thing. And I remember recording with Jim Conway. I remember being in the studio, and the engineer was saying, we did a take of a song. I was playing slide, and there's these kind of, those knocking sounds. He stopped the tape, goes, there's a whole lot of knocking sounds going on there. And puts me back on. I said, yeah, go back and fucking listen to Blind Willie Johnson. You're going to hear knocking sounds all over it. That's part of the whole thing, you know. So yeah, it is part of it. So getting back to my point is that you want to be able to control the slide. Some players like Hound Dog very rarely did the delicate stuff. So they're never damping or that sort of stuff. But that's cool. That was their total sound. I like to have choice, so I can do a number of things. Derek does the same thing. He's damping a lot of the time as well to make it sweeter. The other thing is, with control of the slide, is then how do you move it around to get the vibrato, that vibrato sound? Okay, so everybody should sound different. That's one thing. You might have a hero that you listen to. I've got lots of heroes, but I want to learn from them. But if you get too close to it, if you work it out exactly, it's like for me, there's not much point in that. All of a sudden, if I hear somebody doing something straight off, it's like somebody copying a Jimi Hendrix solo note for note. Jimmy's not going to do it the same next time. He's going to do it different next time. So, and immediately for me, the emotion disappears. So, I probably should have prefaced all this by saying all this is just my opinion, by the way, and my view on how I approach things. But I'm approaching things purely because it's for emotive purposes, for musical purposes. So on the vibrato thing, right? And I'll play a song in a minute to demonstrate it. But there's different ways of approaching it, and what I recommend you doing, thankfully we've got YouTube these days, is get close-ups of some stuff and watch it with the sound off. And watch Derek Trucks or Raikuda or, modern-day artists. And you'll see, with the sound off, you'll see how they move the slide and how they're moving up and down the fret. And it kind of makes more sense when there's no sound there in the background, which is kind of not distracting you from it, but you'll see how they move. And that's their own individual voice. So as a slide player, I always think you should be aiming to try and get your own voice. So like I know that Raikuda does kind of oval-like. He probably doesn't think about it too much, but it's just, he does more like oval-like vibrato. Derek is much more of a flurry up and down the neck with lots of kind of downward slides going on. Actually, I haven't asked him about this, but I'm sure that's to do with his connection with Aubrey Gent, one of the great Sacred Steel guitar players who's still alive. But Aubrey and Derek are friends, and you can really hear that Aubrey has been a big influence on Derek, and also the Hindustani slide players who very much use this technique of sliding down rather than sliding up all the time. Anyway, I'm going to just stay. I'm in open G tuning. There was a question about tunings as well. I'm in open G tuning. I tend to use a few different tunings, but they're usually all centered around. So open G tuning is traditionally referred to as Spanish tuning because of the fact of the Spanish fandango. Apparently, I think it was in the 1800s, the Spanish fandango was a very popular song, and music was distributed on how to play it. And the preferred way to do it was in this tuning, the open tuning, open G tuning, which is D, G, D, G, B, D, the top. So I use that one, but I'll capo up to A at times as well. Actually, I do that quite a lot for songs that are in the key of A. But at the moment, I'm in G. So whether you are or not familiar with open tunings, it opens up a whole other area, and it's with particularly the blues artists from early last century. They played not completely always, but most of the time in open tuning when they're playing slide. There's a few examples of artists who played slide in standard. Muddy Waters started out in open tunings, but ended up, probably more for convenience, playing in standard when he was with a band, because you got the backing of the band. Beauty of an open tuning is you can get the backing from your thumb, because you can keep a rhythm going while you're playing the melody. Which is the idea of so if you go back to all of those early blues artists, they all play with their hands. There's I think aside from Kokomo Arnold, who was a plectrum player, they nearly all and even in Mississippi today, I go fairly regularly in North Mississippi. Pretty well everyone there, they play this style, because of the fact that if you do play solo, or in the North Mississippi music, where because it's stemming from really a solo artist into a band format, rather than being a band where the guitar player is driving the whole thing and there may not be a bass player. So you're able to do your own melody and bass lines. I'm going to demonstrate that when I change tunings a little bit more. But yeah, so I'm keeping my thumb going all the time, sometimes damping to try and get like a staccato, rather than that sound. I'm damping with that part of my hand. Like that. Okay. Just one more song, then I'll take a few questions. Another Robert Johnson. I picked this one because I wanted to kind of demonstrate how the voice and the guitar are going pretty well at the same time, but I'm playing slightly different on the guitar. I'm just sort of following emotions, and I'm damping quite a lot to get that sound rather than that sound. And I'm trying to play very sweetly and sliding up to the notes. Anyway. We're going to be raining outdoors. Like when I learned some of my best friends, some junkie got lucky, started back again. You to come on in my kitchen, going to be raining outdoors. Yeah, I know she's gone. No, she won't come back. I took a lost nickel, violation sack. You to come on in my kitchen. Well, thank you very much. Any questions so far? Yeah.
Do you have a graph equalizer on your pedal board there, or
What have I got? Sorry.
do you have a graph equalizer one?
No, I'm equalising. Equaliser, did you say? I went for a swim this week and I got water in one ear.
Equalizer.
Graphic, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I do. It's not a graphic. It's a partially parametric equaliser. I've got a blender that in the break you're welcome to come and have a look at. And basically it's blending the two signals that I have, which is. So I've got a volume on here, so I can turn that down. But so you're just hearing one signal, which is the piezo pickup thing, and then you're hearing the magnetic now. So, but it's going through there, and it's EQing. It's actually only EQing one of the channels, but that channel I'm not EQing the piezo one. It's fine like that. I just want a little bit of the body sound and that sort of stuff in there, so I can get all those sounds, you know. Interesting, when I did some recordings, gosh, I think it was 2018, 19, something like that, with a Chinese musician. I was talking about the Kuchin music. The Kuchin's a very long quarterphone with long strings on it. Looks like a Japanese koto, if you know what that is. But it's basically a slide instrument, except for the fact that of course, I'm using the slide on my finger to slide along, but with the Kuchin, there's no frets, and it's a very shiny fretboard, and the sliding is just done by just rubbing your finger along like that. But Kuchin players really use these sounds. In fact, there's pieces of music where there's like sections where there's these kind of noises going on. And I love it, but it's set up that way. So, but anyway, that's part of the whole deal here, and trying to get a bit of the body of the guitar in there so we can get these sounds as well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you use anything besides palm muting to control the variation between the volume of your bass strings and your treble strings?
No, only. I mean, the guitar is set up as it's set up. So if I'm just to. I let that ring, it's going to start to feed back. So I'm just using the palm. Yeah. But I'm also, when I start sliding, it's two sides. It's the fingers behind the slide as well. Going, you know, not all the time. When I want it. You know. And it's particularly, all of this muting is particularly helpful on electric guitar, because I play a lot louder on electric guitar. There's a lot more mid-range, and if you do that, it's just going to really take off, you know. And so, but you want all of that power there, you know, but you just want to be able to control it so you can hold it in so that when you want a note to sustain as much as you can, you do, sort of thing. That's kind of maybe leading me on here a little bit to the whole instrument itself. I've talked about the way it's set up, but I'm also, the strings that I'm using are heavier than what you would normally use. So on this guitar, actually these are not too heavy for those guitar players. I've got a 12 to a 56 on the bottom. But then some of my other guitars, I do use some, if I move on to 12-string guitar, like I said, the 12-string guitar players from the early days, Blind Willie McTell and Lead Belly, Barbecue Bob, all of those artists, their 12 strings were tuned baritone. So they're always tuned down. And my theory on this is because the 12-string guitar really comes from Mexico via the bajo sexto, which is a even lower than baritone 12-string guitar. But so they all played baritone. And then when they played in slide, Willie McTell often would play an open D, sometimes lower. And so you've got to have heavy strings on there for that. And so with that in mind, I've got heavier strings on here. Going back to Derek Trucks, his strings are not that heavy. He's got an 11 on the top and a 46, I think, on the bottom, but he's tuning to open E, so which means the strings are going up rather than, from standard tuning, except for the bottom and the top string, the other strings are going up in tension, so it's creating more tension. So he doesn't need such heavy strings. I'm going lower. Sometimes I'll go even, like I'm in an open, I'm going to go into open D in a minute, but sometimes I go down lower to C or even lower down to B, just taking everything down. And the guitars that I do that with, so they're really low tuned, I've got much heavier strings, 68 to like 16 or 17 on the top, so very heavy strings. And also the action, meaning for non-guitar players, the distance between the fretboard and the string, how far out the string is off the fretboard. Rock players tend to like it really close. I like it high, so that I can, so the slide's not buzzing out like that. I can get, this is my fret now, so I can get a nice clean note straight up, which is what I want to do. Was there another question down here? Sorry, yeah.
I've got a bottleneck. I've got bass players' fingers will only fit on my little finger like you.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Playing on the little finger.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it is. Actually, it's an interesting point though, because Bonnie Raitt, I think, plays on maybe that finger, I think. Interestingly, Fred McDowell used to swap. He'd when he was in one tuning, he'd play on the little finger, and when he was in open D tuning, he'd put it on the third finger. Why? I don't know. He just probably felt more comfortable for some reason like that. That really doesn't make much difference in a way, because all I'm trying to do is I need my other fingers to make the different, because even though I'm in open tuning, I'm still making chords, and I often get the question asked, do you ever play lap steel? I go, well, I like it, but I don't play it because I can't do the chords with the lap steel because you can't fret down. And I miss that because the way that I'm playing is I'm fretting in between, which is the reason why I got on there, so I can use these three fingers. But in saying that, it doesn't really matter because I've still got three fingers to use if I have it. I'm just more comfortable here, but that's a good point. I might jump onto slides quickly. Got a bunch of them here. And I do like to use different things. They're totally a little bit different. Okay, it's all about, with the slide, this is your fret, it's all about the density of it. All right, so the denser the matter, the bigger the note you're going to be able to get out of it. So if you've got a very, very thin metal slide, it's going to have less sustain. that's okay if that's what you want. That's fine. You know, it's a matter of choice. So there's all sorts of things that you use. Some of the early artists documented as saying that they used to use steak bones, for example. I think it's what you had available to you. So if you can imagine a bone, it's quite porous. So it's going to be grabbing on the strings as well, and that's going to have an effect. But that's pretty cool if you want that sound. Some David Tronzo, who's a fantastic slide guitar player from the US, from New York, he has like an array of things he uses, including paper cups of all things. But when he uses a paper cup, it sounds more like it sounds more like a Chinese instrument or something, you know. It sounds very plunky and plucky, but it works great. So you can there's all sorts of things you can use for sliders. I tend to go for the more dense things. So I've also got these. This is kind of Lowell George from Little Feat concept he used, and John Hammond, who I toured with John Hammond in the late 80s and 90s. I got to know John really well. And he used the Season Roebuck Company socket spanners. And in the break, you're welcome to come have a look. And they're really cool because you can fit the end of your little finger can fit into the top. Or you can also get them in various sizes too, which is perfect. I was in America last year doing a workshop festival. I was teaching all week, and a couple of the students didn't have slides with them. So I said, go to the hardware store, Season Roebuck. And they came back after lunch. I had them. But they're really cool, and they're quite dense. And also because they're chrome, that means it's going to last longer. For many years I used brass ones that I picked that up from my buddy, Gypsy Dave Smith, who I learned a lot from in the 80s. He used brass ones, but brass is soft, and it starts to get dense in it, and it starts to grab. You've got to keep cleaning them all the time. Whereas these, the Season Roebuck, they're cool. But my favourite of all really is the glass ones. There's kind of something about it. These ones that I've got here, a friend, another great friend, Steve James, who only died last year, a blues guitar player from Texas, he got me a bunch of them because we did some tours together. But they're some old bottles. Some guy I knew was collecting these old bottles and making them. But basically the concept is, I mean, any bottle's fine, but it's thickness. I want thickness. I want density so that I can get, I can get a long note. I'm going to go out of this tuning now. Actually, last thing, I've got something that other slide players don't really like these things. I don't know why. I've had them for years. It's a multi-tuning tailpiece. So I'm going to flip all the switches back up, and I'm in standard tuning. And then when I flip them down, I can go to various tunings. So I'm going to go down to open D, and there we are. Which is super convenient for me because I use a lot of open tunings, and particularly when I'm playing with backsliders, there's not much time in between songs to, and you break strings and all that. But so these things are great. Hipshot Trilogy. But like I said, I don't know any other slide players who use them, and I've been using them for about maybe 25 years. So I've gone down to open D tuning. I'll just do one more thing, and then just take a quick break. So was there any other questions just before I do another one?
So I was just really curious, quickly.
Yeah.
When you're playing slide, what do you expect, again a harmonica question, but what do you expect from, say, someone like Jim, as opposed to when you're playing acoustic guitar? Because the effect of the slide has a different effect on how you're working with the harp. I was just curious how you...
Yeah, that's great. Okay, good question. So I'm going to, to answer it, I'm going to use the example of Joe Glover, who I work with now, a young harmonica player. Joe's fantastic. And I also work with, when I travel to Malaysia and Singapore, I work with an Australian player there, Alex Terry, who I really like, great player. He plays more in a Chicago style, jump style blues. Really cool, really great player. But Joe is more the sentiment of Johnny Woods, who I really love from who's long passed on. But the approach being that it's not, he just gets into his own, and he knows, he falls in and out of what I do. Like, because I'm doing a rhythm. Actually, I'll demonstrate that in a second. I'm kind of doing a lot of rhythmic stuff and then melody stuff, and he'll fall in and out of those. Like, he'll fall into a rhythm part. Actually, I probably should have used the example more of Phil Wiggins, who I work with, who only died last year, who I worked with and recorded a few albums with that I actually have here today, if people would like one of those albums. But, yeah. So, I mean, Phil was a master of that. And when we played together, we really don't talk about, you do this, working, do that, I'll tell you a story about that. Is we're at a festival. I won't say where it is because I'm going to give too much away. We're playing at this festival, and this act asked us to sit in, and they had a harmonica player. I won't say who the act was. And before we went on, the harmonica player went over to Phil and was going to him, so I'm going to do this bit, and then you'll come in here, and then Phil's going, right. And then I'll do this, and then you'll go there. I'll go, right. Phil didn't do any of that and completely blew the other guy off the stage, Unintentionally, it was just like, of course, you've got to think about the structure of the song. I understand that. And you need to know what the parts are so you can, piece these little bits together. But as a whole, when you're looking at it, if you're looking at it from above, you know all of these little bits and pieces, but how they fit, you just want them to move in. So that's the approach with Joe and with Phil. I mean, Joe's younger, and so there's a bit of a power distance going on, but he understands me now. Whereas with Phil and I, we're about the same age, and so we just worked together. Didn't talk about it, just move in and out. Rhythm, he's doing rhythm, and then he'll move into a solo, I'll move into the rhythm. So I think it's just, that's kind of the way. I hope that answers that. So actually, Phil and I used to do this one. It's a real favourite of mine of Fred McDowell and Johnny Woods. That's classic hill country rhythm from North Mississippi. There's a lot of one chord stuff. It kind of derivates from John Lee Hooker's a kind of, although John Lee Hooker was from Clarksdale, more south, but he kind of influenced the players in the north. But also there's a history of fife and drum music in North Mississippi, which is very military, with a large bass drum and snare drum playing very military things. And Fred McDowell used to hang out all the time with Other Turner. They were good friends, and Other Turner was a fife and drum player. So you can almost hear the bass drum. Well, you come to my house, you don't find me around. Somewhere, baby, Lord, shake 'em on down, Lord, how much I know. Put your knees together, you let your backbone move it. Ain't one in town can shake 'em on down like you, Lord, how much I know. Lord, how much I know. She's the meanest woman that I most ever seen. Lord, how much I know. That's about half the song anyway. Might just take a 10-minute break, folks, if that's okay. And yeah, be back if you've got any more questions or whatever. And I might do a bit of actual demonstrating at the last part of the next thing if you brought a guitar with you. All right. But don't go away, though, at the end. But, so this this second part, I wanted to focus more on the open D tuning thing, and I also wanted to talk about melody in terms of using the slide. So I talked about earlier the idea of it being a voice, and so you need to think of it that way. And I also was encouraging you to look at, I mean, you can, if you're sort of fairly newish to slide, you can move away from not having to focus on using your thumb and doing the kind of the finger picking rhythms and all that sort of stuff, because that's like a whole other bag in as well. I'm encouraging you to do that. But the beauty of the open tuning thing is that you can sort of get away with just doing the slide onto the chords like this. So basically, you know, that's my open D, and then when I go up to the 5th fret, I'm going to have the G, and then I'm going to have the A up there. So you can sort of work around doing that. Now there's and there are some songs that kind of work on that whole idea of just using the slide barring the whole chord shape. In particular, there's one by Leadbelly called Frankie and Albert, which you can find on Spotify, where Leadbelly is working through. He's a great slide player. I think he's probably playing at lap style, but he's not chording at all, and he's not doing any fingerstyle stuff in it as well. But when I was sort of early on in my guitar playing career, when I first sort of started on slide, didn't really talk about that, but when I first started on slide, I kind of gravitated towards this song in particular because of the fact that he wasn't, I thought I could probably approximate that fairly easily just by using the slide. I wasn't experienced at damping or whatever. But anyway, I'll sort of play part of it. It goes... Frankie was a woman, everybody knows. Made $100, got a man a suit of clothes. It was a man, Lord, he might have done it wrong. So you kind of get the idea, but sure, I'm doing an alternating bass because I can't help but not do that. But you can approximate the whole song by just sliding the slide up and down. Frankie and Albert, it's a cool song, but early on in my career, that kind of got me started a bit. Okay, so I'm going to jump back now. I'm encouraging you to get a bass line going with your slide and think about the melody. So if you're not there yet, that's okay, just focus on the melody. A perfect example of blending a melody in with a bass line is Amazing Grace, gospel song. Fred McDowell did it, a lot of people have done it, but I'm doing like a classic version of it. So the great thing about it is you can really concentrate on getting the single note melody happening, which is you really want to get those single notes right. You want to get them clear. You want to be able to damp behind it nicely, so you get a nice sweet note, and you're getting the melody. So I'm going to play the melody. Okay, so you know that melody, but it's a really good exercise in just focusing on, and the whole time as well, I'm damping with the palm of my hand here. If I don't do that, it starts to. I've got too many other notes going on in the background. I don't want that. I don't want that noise. So I'm blocking that out by damping here, damping behind. Okay, so it's a really good exercise to work through. You know the melody, of course. Apparently the guy who wrote it, whose name I can't remember, owned slaves. So the weird thing is it became such a popular gospel song. And then when you feel like you're up to it, it's a perfect one to try and get an alternating bass going. So what I mean by that is I'm in an open D tuning. So the bottom string's a D and the fourth string's a D. So I'm going to alternate like that. Right, so it's I want to be able to try and put that melody in. So I'm not changing chords at all, I'm just keeping my thumb going like that. So I spent hours doing this when I was starting out. And I'm just trying to fit the melody in between. I'm going to stay on the one chord. So you've got to actually spend a lot of time just doing the melody before you can start to put the bass line in. So I did the whole progression around the one chord. Okay, so now we know that that's a D, and we know the 5th fret is a G, and then the 7th fret's an A. So we can, while I was doing the bass line there, I can also move the slide up. So I can move the bass line to fit the pattern as well. So that's kind of the third step in this exercise that takes many, many months. So worked for the melody for a long, long time. Then I started putting in the bass line. And now I'm going to put in the bass line and move the chords. So like this. Now I'm going to move up to the G. Going to move up to the A. So it's a good little exercise in, thank you very much, in trying to piece all the bits together. But I can't stress strongly enough that it's that melody that you want. You're trying to make it sing. You're trying to make the melody sing here. And so it doesn't have to be that song. It can be anything that you want, where you pick out the notes individually and work on them, because you want to get the control of the slide. So when you're listening to the notes that I'm playing there, right? So it could be played like this. Okay, lovely melody, but there's kind of no nuance in there. There's not a lot of feel for me in there. And so because I've got the slide, I want the melisma, the moving notes in there. So I want to and I'm using a bit of vibrato on there, but it's just all choice, and it's something that I've built up over time. The other thing to think about is that you're not always, when you're picking the string, you're not going to pick every note. You're not going to go. Sometimes you're just going to let the note ring. I'm only picking once and I'm getting 3 notes because I'm just hammering off. So it's something as well to think about, is that when you're picking out the note, the melody, you won't always pick every single note that you're going to play. So which ones do you do and don't? Well, it's really up to you, and it's just because you're trying to create a singing guitar kind of sound on there. I wanted to just, while I'm in this tuning now, I'll just do one more thing and then take some questions. One of the kind of greatest of the early players that you should really focus on listening to is Blind Willie Johnson from the 20s. So why do I keep going back to all of these early players, all right? So there's a lot of amazing modern players, and I understand that, and I listen to various people. I mentioned David Tronzo before. But the thing is, when you're listening to the earlier players, there's something that's not really quantifiable in the way that the artists are playing. Sometimes it's about the less notes that the people are playing. And once you start to listen deeply to these early artists, you'll realise it's not that easy to replicate. It's to get the sounds that were happening there. And maybe it's kind of social, or I'm not really sure, but it's difficult to get the sounds exactly. And then it's interesting the note choices people made in those early periods. But I think it's more about the economy of the way that the artists were playing then and the overall sounds that I love. So I want to play one by, well, it's a version, you never do this one right, by Blind Willie Johnson. And if you heard about the Voyager spacecraft that's floating around out there in the outer universes, that has various iconic pieces of information about the world, and one of the things on there is a recording of this song, Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground. I'm going to do a bit of a weird version of it though. Thank you very much. So one of the reasons for choosing that one as well is that's a kind of unusual song for that period in that it doesn't have a beat, doesn't have a rhythm going. It's just kind of played openly without a beat happening. So it's actually, if you listen, it's a really good one to learn because it's got like 3 or 4 different parts in it, but they're all centered around single notes that you could hear. And it's a really good way to try and get your technique down. I mentioned Amazing Grace, played that one for you, but it's a really good one to try and get control of your slide. And also it's moving from the top strings, it's also moving down to the bass strings as well, so you can get some stuff happening there. And it doesn't require a rhythm. So if you're not good at doing alternating bass or any kind of finger picking, that's okay. You can just concentrate on the notes. Dark Was a Night, Cold Was the Ground by Woody Johnson. Any questions at this point in time? I'm going to get close to down the back there, yeah?
So with those past 2 bits, you did the Amazing Grace and the Dark Tonight. So you're using your slide to fret the bass notes and you're muting them with your right hand. Is that what you're doing there?
Correct. Yeah. It's always this palm mute going on. I mean, if I was completely acoustic, I probably wouldn't need to do so much of that. But you know, part of it is the fact that the amplifier is it's going to feed back. But I kind of want that. I want things just on the edge all the time. Acoustically, I'd probably damp a little bit less on that one. But yes, I need to. And then yeah, the bass strings are doing. I'm leaving in the extraneous sounds. So it's a good one to help you think about the choices you're going to make there, when you're going to damp, when you're not going to damp, when you're going to kind of leave it open. So maybe I'll just do that again. I mean, sometimes when I play it, I really open up on that. Then kind of bring it down. So it's really about kind of moving a dynamic based on how you're feeling. And as I mentioned way earlier on today, it's just kind of getting into the song. This will sound slightly esoteric, but Confucius wrote a series of books on music, interestingly, thousands of years ago. And his theory was that the center of all music is in the single note. And what that means for me is that, as a slide player, is that when you're playing a note, you try and get into the note, you know? You're trying to focus on that and trying to get as much or as little out of that particular note because it can be the center of everything that's happening there. I suppose another way of looking at it is like the melody is going to be the center of things. Even if there's a rhythm, it's going to be the center. So focus on that note that you're doing. That's what I take from it. This is just the standard, the National Slimline pickups from the National Guitar Company. I haven't picked this guitar up yet, but I've got it on there. They're a humbucking magnetic pickup. I am preamping and EQing it slightly, but I do find them great because, I mean, I haven't mentioned these instruments are resonator guitars and probably why I'm attracted to them, but as you can see, for those of you who don't know, it looks like a speaker cone because it's actually got basically a physical speaker in there. It's like a speaker cone inverted, and the strings are sitting on a biscuit that sits on that cone. It's very thin aluminium, so it's just like a speaker, and it vibrates. So if I'll completely mute the amp, and you can hear it's kind of loud and boxy sort of sound, very metal, but it's like a mechanical speaker. These were designed just because they're louder than acoustic guitar. At the time in the 20s when they were designed, it was like, well, acoustic guitar's soft, we want something louder. Made this, it's got a speaker in it, see? It's louder. And it is actually louder. But the blues guys seem to get completely attracted to them, I think because of the grittiness of the sound. But weirdly, these days, when I listen back to recordings of like Blind Willie Johnson, Blind Lemon Jefferson, they were generally playing acoustic guitars, parlor-sized small guitars, usually ladder braced. So they got, and they sound more like these. The recordings, that sounds more like a 20s recording than so. There's something about these instruments when you play that early music that does sound a bit closer to it. Not that I'm trying to mimic it, but it does sound closer to it. So, but these pickups, while they're magnetic, they're still picking up some of the. I'll unmute and I'm going to turn off. I'm only going to use a magnetic pickup. So, but it's still picking up a lot of the stuff around here, and I want that because you know that's. I'm often. I don't know if you can hear, but I'm often hitting the guitar like that, and so I want all of that sound in there. Even on my electric guitars, I gravitate towards the Supros and the Nationals, which are actually hollow-bodied, and for very much the same kind of reason. I want to be able to hear when I hit it. I want it to sound, you know. That's it's a sorry, I forgot the name of it. It's a contact pickup, just a stick-on one that I have there, and just for the sole purpose of giving me that very, very natural kind of acoustic sound. It's, you know, it's never going to be quite acoustic, but when I blend it in, I get a sound that I like. I get the two together. So, yeah. Any other questions there? Yeah. Well, actually, what I was hoping to do is, in the last 20 minutes, if you do have a guitar here, and if there's no more actually questions, is to actually come down and demonstrate some stuff in open D tuning close up, so you can see what I'm doing, which will require you to take your guitar out and put it into open D tuning. I'll note that out for you as well. And just while people are getting their instruments out, sorry to put you all on the spot like that, but I mean, I'll play. You can just sort of play along. I can see a few resonators coming out as well. And while I'm not ending it, but I do want to thank the Sydney Blues Society for inviting me here today. It was, it's a real honour, and the Sydney Blues Society just do some fantastic work, and I hope you can get along to some of their stuff. I'm sure you already do. And another thing too, and I'm not finishing it, but I've got this gig that came up this week with my good friend Christina Olsen from Los Angeles is here. She's actually in Western Australia at the moment, but she did a couple of gigs, I think last week or the week before, that sold out. She's doing a third one, and I'm going to be guesting with her at the Petersham Bowling Club this Thursday night. If you're about, I'm going to do some songs beforehand and then sit in with Christina, who's a great folk artist, but she also plays slide as well.
Sorry, just one quick question.
Yeah.
I'm setting up. Is there anything that Joe Glover does on the harp that you notice that gives him the right sort of sound that you're looking for when you're on slide? So you might say that he's playing through a different mic, or he's doing something that you're aware of for a harp player.
So yeah, with that, what I'm kind of drawn to is if he's listening for the melody, if he's finding the melodic notes, not all the time, you know, he's kind of, but he'll lock in onto the melody, and because in the kind of music that I'm playing, the melodies, they're almost like a riff. They kind of fall in and out of the song, and when they come in. So it's when Joe would lock into that, but he might not do it. He might do it differently. He might go da 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 ba 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 da da da. He'll vary it, you know, and that's interesting for me that they're doing things. He's doing things like that rather than just doing the straight melody every time. So open D, D, A, D, F sharp, B, D. Sorry, I'll do that again. D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. One more time. Yeah, we got it. Okay. So I'll come down there actually, and I'm going to demo this one. It's all on one chord for you. We're going to stay on the one chord, and it's one that you probably know, but it's got a beautiful melody that you can focus on, the melody part of it, and it's You've Got to Move. So I'm going to play a bass line as well, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. So I'll play it once here, and then I'll come down there so you can have a look. When alone, get ready, you gotta move. I'm gonna play it one more time. I'll just talk through it. So it's pretty well all on the top string. So it's the open string on the top to the fourth, fifth, seventh. Da, 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 da. So it's just all on the top string. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Sounds like when the Saints go marching in too. Da, 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 da. So it's 1, 4, 5, 7. Open 4, 5, 7. So it's better if I show you rather than talk through it. So I'm going to come down there actually. Okay, the beauty of this one too is that it's a Fred McDowell song. It's actually a traditional song, but Fred made it famous. So most of it's on that top string, great, you can just focus on there. But then, so the top string's a D, the third string is also a D. So what he does when you listen to the recording is, then at times he would swap and do the whole melody on the fourth string. So it's the same positions, it's just an octave down. And it just means then you're going to have to focus a bit more on your damping behind the strings so that you get clean notes on that fourth string. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just on the fourth string. and we go up to the top string. You hardly have to damp it all on the top string because it's right on the end. That last part, da, da, that's on the second string, 3rd fret, open, 3rd fret, open. Let's play together, and we're going to go on to the 4th string. You got to move, you got to move, you got to move, child, you got to move. When the Lord gets ready, you gotta move. You may be high, you may be low, you may be rich, child, you may be poor. When the Lord gets ready, you gotta move. Give yourselves a round of applause there. Okay, thanks very much. So I'm just going to finish up with one more song now. Hope you've enjoyed the session. I've really enjoyed chatting to you all. If there's anything further, just before I end, if you've got any more questions that you would like to ask? No? Okay, no, appreciate you. George, yeah.
You actually mentioned, what's his name, David Tronzo?
David Tronzo.
He plays in standard.
He plays in standard tuning.
Yeah. Any thoughts about that?
Yes.
Because Muddy Waters also played standard.
Yeah, Muddy, I mentioned Muddy earlier. Muddy later in the career played in standard, very true, but his very early recordings were mainly in open G tuning, but also open D. Just trying to think of the song. Don't you live so dark and used to in a while lonely time. So my theory behind it is that later on he was with a band, so therefore it's, for those of you who've ever tried playing, I can play slow guitar and standard tuning as well, but it's very difficult to keep a bass line going. Because I don't have the open strings down there to do it. And so Muddy didn't when he was playing with a band. So, when you've got a bass player and drummer, you're mainly playing melody, you don't need it. So that's fine. Dave Tronzo, same thing. He's normally playing with a...
bebop and everything.
Yeah, he's got a whole he's fabulous if you can find any of his stuff. Really fabulous, unique... player. I mentioned my buddy Jeff Lang. We've both been fans of Dave, and actually Jeff's met him a few times as well. He's a great player in standard, incredible. But yeah, that's the main difference. Is it's very difficult to keep a rhythm going with your thumb in standard, trying to find the right notes. It's not impossible, but it's kind of difficult. Thanks, George. Anything else, folks? Okay. Now, well, I'll okay, I'm going to end with this one, favourite Robert Johnson one of mine. woke up this morning, saw the blues walking like a man. I said, come in, Mr. Blues, won't you give me your right hand? Oh, blues, what I'm for stinking Jim. Oh, blues, what I'm for stinking Jim. He never had 'em. Hope you never will. Blues for a little child, torn upside down. Blues fell on a child, torn upside down. Mr. Poor Boy, well, I just can't turn you round. Thanks very much, folks. Thanks again for coming along. Much appreciated. And like I said, I get gig on with Christina Olsen on Thursday night.